So reports suggest that Cristiano Ronaldo has asked to leave Manchester United if a bid comes in for him. Let's have a little look back at Manchester United's transfer failings in the forward position and how United can replace Ronaldo. Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe. That is Adam McKola. How are you doing, Adam?
All right, well done. Got through that in the end?
We got through it in the end. We're going to be looking at United's forward problems. Do you think we've got problems in the forward area?
We've got problems everywhere.
We've got some serious problems everywhere. First of all then, because I ain't even spoke to you about this, what are your thoughts on the whole Ronaldo situation? Does he have to go? Is he taking the mick? Like, do we replace him? Or do we just say, you've got a contract, you've got to stay? What would you do?
My thoughts on it are disappointed with the timing of it. If it was 4 weeks ago, I don't think I would have really been that bothered. I love Cristiano Ronaldo. I love getting to watch him again at Old Trafford and all those kind of things. But with Ten Hag coming in, even if you keep him, it's not a long-term decision.
No.
So Cristiano Ronaldo leaving, to me, isn't a problem. The problem we have is, will we replace him? Have we got time to replace him? Are there available players to replace him? And it's those questions that leave me more worried than the fact of, is Cristiano Ronaldo leaving or not? I'm not as worried by that as maybe I could have been or should have been. Because I do think, just, all right, you fresh start then, you know what I mean? You don't have to worry about replacing him in the future. But if, let's say, we make the signings we plan on making with midfielders and, fullback or whatever, are we going to splash out on a striker? I doubt it. Who can replace Chris? Who could you possibly go and get?
But it's interesting though, isn't it? Because the season before Ronaldo, we scored more goals than the season with him. So it's not as though you have to replace Cristiano Ronaldo's goals. You just have to play a different way slightly, or have a more confident, effective team. Because Martial scored 23 goals 2 years ago, and that's what Ronaldo scored last year.
Yeah, I don't think there's an issue in terms of the style of play is probably going to change anyway. Yeah. And there's also always a question: would Ronaldo fit in and all those kind of things? But you still have to replace. Looking like we've got no Mason Greenwood; he's gone out of the squad. Yeah. Anthony Martial's come back. Yes, we've lost Cavani. Yeah. So who else is there? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There aren't any other strikers unless you're looking down the academy and stuff.
So you look at that then. Obviously, Ronaldo, Cavani. There's two of the signings United made. Let's sort of go back a little bit, because it's basically been 10 years without a reliable number 9 that is starting every week, is a top player since Van Persie.
And what's mad is, if you would have went to me,
awful.
When Fergie leaves, you're gonna get Falcao, Zlatan, Ronaldo, this, that, and the other. Yeah. I'd have gone, how many league titles are we winning then? We might even have 2 or 3 Champions League trophies. Like, when you look at the names.
Yeah, unbelievable. We'll go through some of those names now. Let's start with Falcao, signed in 2014 on loan with an option to buy. Came in, huge reputation, 41 goals in 51 appearances for Porto, 52 and 68 for Atletico. And then afterwards, he's still gone on to score loads of goals for Monaco as well. But he was one of the most prolific strikers in Europe at the time, wasn't he? Brilliant in the air, which made people think he'd be suited for the Premier League. Great instinctive sort of number 9 poacher. Scored 4 goals in 29 appearances for United, left after 1 season. Do you think, looking back, he'd had his injuries as well, do you think looking back that was something we should have known and avoided, or was it just one of them where he's a top player, we got him in, it didn't work out, we could never have known?
It was a risk worth taking because he came in on loan, didn't he?
Yeah.
But it was a weird one at the time, because I remember we let Danny Welbeck go, and I thought Danny Welbeck would have done well under Van Gaal.
Yeah.
I'm a big Danny Welbeck fan though. But Falcao coming in, I was buzzing. I was like, we can get this guy back to his best. I don't think he ever really had a manager. When you've had injuries like that, you need a manager that's going to put his arm around you, wrap you in cotton wool, keep you, like, you have to put in graft for Louis Van Gaal, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think Falcao did work hard, but he had just lost that sharpness in and around the box. Maybe it was the pace of the Premier League and all those kind of things, but I love Falcao. Yeah. Absolutely love
it. Was
him.
so exciting as well, wasn't it? But obviously didn't really work out.
I've always
Chelsea,
watched Italian football and Spanish football and all these kind of things, and when you look down the years at some of those number 9s that you've watched, like the Inzagis and Batistuta and all that. Falcao was from that mould. Yeah. So when he came, it was like, oh,
this sort of like European superstar, but he had that kind of like rawness.
Obviously,
to him
South
as well,
American.
But I mean, but playing around Europe.
But people are gonna.
Yeah.
Is Colombia in South America?
Yes,
it is, right?
But yeah, he had that, like, he's played in around the big leagues in Europe. He scored loads of goals everywhere. It's a shame that it didn't work out, but obviously it's one of them looking back where maybe we went for name over sort of suitability, because it didn't work out. He did go and score goals afterwards, so he wasn't finished, but it just didn't work for United. So let's move on to Martial, because he was the next one we bought. Bought him in the next summer, 55 million overall. I think it was 38 million initially. Obviously, we know he's still at the club, and he's someone that could potentially replace Ronaldo. But he was one of only 2 signings that we've made post-Fergie strikers that were under 30. So he was one for the future. And obviously, he's still here now, 7 years later. Do you think that transfer has been a success?
It's been successful at times. Like, he has been a valuable member of the team throughout that. In that period, he has been a valuable member of the team. Has he lived up to the potential and everything that he had at this moment in time? We would have expected him to be ahead of where he currently is.
Yeah.
But a season or two ago, it looked like he was getting there. Could Ten Hag save him? I don't know.
Do you think he could? Because obviously
he's going to have a chance.
We haven't got many. Like I said, he's our only current number 9.
I'm telling you, there's
training
a chance.
and in the squad.
I'm telling you, there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Listen,
go on.
There's a chance.
And I'll leave it at that.
No, there really is a chance for him. It's mad. But look, he hasn't lived up to the potential that we've had. But you can't call it a catastrophic failure, because I think he's had 2 seasons where he was our top goal scorer, Players Player of the Year. He's won a few trophies.
Yeah.
So he's done something, but we would have expected him to be ahead of where he is currently, and he needs to get back to that. Can he? I believe he could do it, especially if the manager
26?
puts. Imagine Ten Hag's a perfect manager for him.
Yeah.
Imagine,
Possible.
how do we know he's not?
No, we don't. And he's someone that can play as a number 9, can play off that left-hand side. Ten Hag loves wide wingers that cut in onto their favoured foot. He could be United's left winger next season.
If Ronaldo
I think
goes,
it's unlikely, but yeah.
He could be our number 9.
He could possibly. But I think he's one of the players that falls into that category of getting them back to where they were. Like Rashford's one of them, Maguire's one of them, Shaw's one of them, Martial's one of them. Players who, like, at their best, are probably good enough for Man United, but we haven't seen him at his best, and he's been off his best.
His
for
loan
longer
move
than
didn't
the
go
other
to
two.
plan as well. A few injuries, didn't really score many goals. It seemed to have fallen out of favour there at Sevilla, so that didn't go to plan. I think if I was him, I'd look at this as my last big opportunity at a big club.
Yeah.
Because who's going to come in after?
It's going to be sort of.
If you used to go on
and
sale
Lyons
this summer, who's going to come in?
Yeah, mid to top level teams in France, and then anywhere
maybe
else,
Europa
it's
League teams,
mid-table Europa League teams, yeah.
And
or you might get
some
a
Champions League teams that are just
maybe in Turkey or the
you're not going to get
the
Barcelonas and the Real Madrids, and actually Barcelona's signing anyone.
Yeah. He's an interesting one, though,
class for
Martial, because he's one of the few players on this list, as we'll go through, that didn't seem like an absolute sort of desperation signing and wasn't just big name over everything else. Obviously, the fee was probably, I think, the biggest on this list, or second maybe to Lukaku, but he was a relatively unknown player that took a bit of scouting, that actually took a bit of like research and work. And, yes, he's not been successful every year, but he's still at the club and he's still, got potential. One thing with him, though, is this sort of peaks and troughs in it. Like, he was really good, and then Zlatan came in, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, there's also an argument, can he deal with competition?
That's what I mean, yeah.
But let's see.
Well, he ain't got any next season, so he might not need to.
He's got no competition. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
He's number 1.
Oh, right, yeah, that's what it is. Next up then, Zlatan, who I think might be the most sort of outright success on this. He was a free transfer.
Here's a question.
Came in as a 35-year-old.
Or a theory.
Yeah.
If Zlatan didn't have that injury, Mourinho has much more success at United.
Definitely.
I think Zlatan held that dressing room together.
Yeah.
He had a great relationship with Pogba, who kind of held the other side of the dress. I think, like, when he had Zlatan on side, he had the dressing room on side.
Yeah.
Once he lost Zlatan, lost that influence, he lost the dressing room.
Yeah.
And that's where, when Mourinho's flipping at someone,
yeah,
Zlatan could probably step in and go,
Yeah. And he got 20,
come on, like,
whereas
when he loses that.
Massive. That's so massive, though, that kind of, like you said, like, getting the dressing room right. Because we saw, like you said, as soon as he left, it all fell to pieces. We saw with Ole, the one thing that I think was holding it together was the dressing room to start with, and then we saw this season, once the dressing room goes, it all collapses. 28 goals in 48 appearances. He was like, let's get a big name in. He's past his best, but we got him in and he did make a difference. He did win trophies with United. Was he one of the only ones on there that you would call an outright success?
Ronaldo, you could argue, was a success. Without Ronaldo, where are we? You could make a flip argument and say, did he affect the dressing room and all that? But I am of the belief that the players that couldn't handle Ronaldo in the dressing room are more to blame than he is. Because I believe you should rise to those standards and not crumble.
Yeah.
So I think Ronaldo was, in a footballing sense. I think Zlatan was. I think Martial has been at times. You can't say it is now.
No.
But in the moment, at times, certain periods, you've been like, he's worth it. And you could also argue he's 38 million.
I was going to say, I
We've
don't
not
think he's a
paid
waste
many
of
of
money.
the add-ons anyway.
No.
Apart from that, who else we got?
Well, let's move on
Falcao
then to Lukaku, who's the biggest signing
Lukaku
of all of
was
them.
probably
76
the
million
biggest
quid. Lasted
failure
2 years. Yeah.
in the expectations that we had of him. Look, Falcao, we knew about his injuries. He'd never played in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Lukaku, we'd seen him in the Premier League tearing it up.
For West Brom, Everton.
We expected that.
Yeah. And we did get it a little bit first season. I think it was 22 goals in the first season, or some 20 plus goals certainly in his first season. 27, sorry, my mistake. 27 goals in his first season. I think it was 13 in his second season. Which obviously, 27 goals in a season is very good, and yet it still felt like this wasn't going to last. And now he's left. He went to Inter, was successful there, come back to the Premier League with Chelsea. That hasn't worked out either. Again, though, it's that same thing of let's sign the biggest name available. And other clubs around, the top of the Premier League weren't doing that. City haven't done that. Liverpool haven't done that.
I really wanted
United just
Lukaku
go
at
for
the
the
time,
biggest
though.
name.
I remember there was a video me and Steve did on the BBC where they asked us who did we want to sign. And that was like a season before we signed him, and we were like, Lukaku. Like, Lukaku was a top target for most clubs. And I think it wasn't a mistake in signing him. Maybe how we used him was a mistake. Maybe we didn't quite grasp how, his style wouldn't fit with what we wanted, or, there was times where he'd get jeered and, those kind of things.
It was never going to work under Ole either.
He lost his confidence
after Jose
hard.
went.
So I think he was the right player, probably wrong club. Do you know one of them ones?
Yeah. It's interesting as well with him because he's someone that you bring him in to make the difference in those big games or to win your trophies.
I think these players,
You've only got one goal against the top
You need to
six.
show them. A lot of people look at these players and think they're just going to come in and change everything for you. Like, look at Thomas Tuchel and him didn't get on.
No.
Lukaku performs when he's loved.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever felt that love at United.
He
Whether
does-
rightly or wrongly, you know what I mean?
Seems to. I've seen interviews with him. I've read a lot about him when we signed him. Like interviews from him as a 13-year-old, as a 16-year-old, as a 19, all the way through. And there seems to be a trait of insecurity to him, where he feels like he always has to prove people wrong all the time. And sometimes you're like, mate, you've scored 250 career goals.
Yeah, but how frustrating must that be?
And yeah, exactly. And yet he's still doubted, he's still knocked. But I think he plays into that. And sometimes he sort of goes under a little bit when, like you said, if he's not getting the praise or he's not feeling loved, you don't see the best out of him. And it's a shame that maybe that's why he struggles in those big games as well, because
He'll go
that
to
final
Italy
bit of
again now and
confidence-
smash it.
Probably will, yeah, because he's a great goal scorer. But we sold him 2 years later for 65 million quid. Let's move on then. And this was where, and again, big fan favourite, smacks of desperation when we signed Odion Ighalo.
Let's not talk about Odion Ighalo.
Why?
Was there any point?
Well, yeah, because there was a transfer deadline day where we were trying to get Josh King and we couldn't get him, so we ended up with Odion Ighalo.
United's
Don't
board
slag off him, but
stank.
the way that United have signed
Stinks.
players is the problem.
Yeah, and it shows you all these strikers we signed.
Yeah,
We're still scrambling about for, and I say it again, if, let's say Fergie didn't leave in 2013, by 2015, Harry Kane's a Man United player.
yeah, probably.
Do you know what I mean? Or give him any of these players
Yeah,
and he makes them his striker for the next 10 years.
yeah,
It shows you how important getting the right coach, in place, the right manager to strike up a relationship with these players is. Because ultimately they decide whether you're a success or not.
because also, again, we're all big fans of Odion Ighalo as a human, but the fact that he was the player we signed, a guy in his 30s who's was just about good enough for Watford, but not
Showed
quite.
you how big of a failure
Shows you
our
how
transfer.
big yeah, exactly. The board, Woodward, Judge, the structures in place, all of these aging stopgap players, back after back after back. At some point, you need
£1
someone.
billion
Yeah.
and we're relying on Odion Ighalo.
Yeah, and then next up, Edinson Cavani, another
we
one.
knocking on his hotel room door or something, just before the transfer deadline.
Something ridiculous like that. Like, that's what I'm saying, and then we end up getting Edinson Cavani on transfer deadline day again, on a free transfer after he'd been out of contract all summer.
And then look what
we end
we
up with
did to him.
Cavani, a 34-year-old.
To be fair, I fell out of love with him towards the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Stopped singing his song and that. But, like, even with him, we begged him to stay and then sign Ronaldo.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Do you know what I mean? It's like,
and we
shows no forward thinking.
We signed him so late that he missed the first 3 games of the season because he couldn't get a work permit.
Yeah.
Like, it's absolutely
Brexit
shambolic. Let's just move
bastard.
straight on. Obviously, Cavani, that ended, somewhat unsanctimoniously or unceremoniously, should I say.
But that one wasn't a bad signing.
No, but again, it's not a bad signing if you've got the 26-year-old and you need Cavani as your backup.
Yeah.
He was our main striker. Martial at that point, unfortunately, fell by the wayside and lost all of his form, which maybe isn't Cavani's fault. But then, now Martial's out of form. Cavani is injured every other week. We go and bring in Cristiano Ronaldo, someone who's even older than Cavani. Again, he's got a few decent goals this season. He's had some great times this year. The Newcastle game was one of my favourite games I've ever been to as a United fan. But United got worse this season. United have got no sort of future planning for that number 9 position. He's now asking to leave. There is a continued sort of symptom of short-sightedness from the board, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Continuously. They'll have a plan and then they'll go away from it.
Yeah.
Because their policy isn't good enough. Like, we don't need to make last-minute signings of Adrian Igalo or Edinson Cavani or Cristiano Ronaldo if you're making the right long-term signings. Because if you're making the right long-term signings, you're never going, oh, actually, he could do a job for us. Yeah. Because you're going, no, well, actually, he's playing there, so why the hell would we change that? Do you know what I mean?
Like, I loved that we signed Ronaldo, and if we could go back, I'd probably do it again. But I wish we didn't have to.
Signing, not hoping that would be the final piece of the jigsaw, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the fact that,
hoping that it would kind of elevate the dressing room a little bit and everything like that. We relied upon him too much, and then even during the season, he did well in terms of 24 goals.
Yeah.
He did really well in terms of 24 goals, but when you look at, there was a period of games where he had like 11, 12 games.
Yeah.
And he scored 1.
Yeah.
If we could rest him, he maybe plays 6 games there and scores 6.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the points tally is completely different. So again, transfer policy, there was none.
No. And it's a shame, innit? Because
that needs to change now.
Most top clubs in Europe aren't making signings off the back of our rivals want them, we need to get them. Like, mostly people are going, here's our targets, let's get our targets in and stick to that. We still seem so reactionary compared to other top teams. Like, out of these, then let's come up with a biggest failure and a biggest success. Who do you say has been the biggest failure out of those players that we've signed in terms of not just what they did on the pitch, but how much of a poor decision it was by the people making those decisions to bring them in the first place?
Oh, I see that. That last bit of the question makes me think. I can't. It changes. When you said who's been the biggest failure, I was thinking Lukaku. But then when you said failure at the time, I don't think it was.
That signing made a bit more sense, didn't it?
At the time, it kind of made sense.
Yeah.
But
I think Falcao might be up there.
Nah, man, he was on loan, you mad guy.
Yeah, but it wasn't with a view to him being on loan forever, was it?
No, don't say Falcao. You can't have 75 million Lukaku in there.
But we got 65 back.
Yeah, but so we still spent more on Lukaku than we did fucking Falcao.
But he did more. He also did more, though.
No. What we're not going to do here is drag Falcao down. You think who's been the biggest failure? You think Falcao?
I think he's a symptom of let's just go for the biggest name regardless of whether it fits.
He was
never
injured.
He
wasn't even a main guy at that point.
He didn't seem like a striker that Louis van Gaal would get along with to me.
The biggest success has been Zlatan.
Definitely.
Yeah? Easy.
Yeah.
The biggest failure has been Lukaku.
Do you think? Yeah. I'll go with you on that.
Because he was Premier League proven.
Yeah.
He was coming in the peak of it, where he's approaching his peak years. You expect him to be a striker for the next 5-10 years, and he didn't.
So what's next then? Ronaldo, we both agree, should leave. If he wants to leave, there's no point trying to keep hold of him. Do you think we're going to get another Cavani or someone like an Icardi or a one away striker from another club that's probably past his best that, you know, is another stopgap? Or do you think we need to go out and try and get the next 25-year-old?
I think we probably go out and sign like an Anthony something, bolster our forward line, but we're predominantly going to be seeing the likes of Anthony Martial playing number 9.
You think?
I don't think who you're going to challenge for Lewandowski maybe?
But he's 34.
Is he the kind of striker? No, I know, but
I know. I'm not
just
knocking you.
I don't think we should. I'm just saying, like, Harry Kane. He's not going to leave Spurs when they've got Champions League football.
No.
You know, you could have maybe looked at a Richarlison, a Darwin Núñez,
on a free.
let these guys go.
Yeah.
Paulo Dybala.
Yeah.
False 9. That's a possibility, but his best mates with Pogba. Pogba's probably not going to advise him on that move.
We're in a position again, though, where, again, maybe we could have predicted some of this from Ronaldo. I don't think I would, because he's on like 300 grand a week at Juve. He'd want at least that at United, which puts him right near the top of our earners. I don't think he's a good enough player to be one of United's main earners. I don't think that's a good sort of dynamic for the squad. I'd rather Belotti on a free.
It's going to be a forward line of Marshall, Sancho, Rashford.
Plus, I think we'll sign maybe Anthony.
Coming.
It's tough, isn't it? Again, let us know your thoughts in the comments. United sort of basically continuously making the same mistake of signing stopgap players without ever actually having the person that is going to be filling that gap.
You know what's annoying if Ronaldo does leave? Ericsson would have been perfect for him. You know?
Yeah.
Like just smashing
just
balls.
Pinging balls into his head all the time. Anyway, there's United's striker transfer problems explained. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit subscribe as well if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you see when we go live and when we upload before anyone else. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you in a bit.
Bye.